Welcome back. I know you're anxious to get back to what you say is the real issue, so tell me what the real issue is.
Well, the fact is, it's important to speak about process, but this is the issue. According to the Public Protector's report, President Zuma tacitly accepted the implementation of all the measures at his residence, and he unduly benefited from the enormous capital investment from the non-security related installations at his private residence. She also found that he failed to apply his mind to the contents of the declaration of his private residence as a national key point, and specifically failed to implement security measures at own cost as directed by it, or to approach the Minister of Police for a variation of the declaration. He failed to act in protection of state resources, constituting in turn a violation of paragraph 32 of the Executive Ethics Code, and accordingly amounts to conduct that is inconsistent.
You say that's the real issue?
Well, that's the issue.
All right, so
246 million rand, and that the President inappropriately
help me here. You want, I'm curious on your, now in relation to this. So you're going to go to the subcommittee. The subcommittee doesn't reinvestigate all the evidence, I assume, or does it?
No.
You don't have your own hearing.
You can have one.
You could.
You could?
Yes. But there are 18 unanswered questions put by the Public Protector to the President.
Oh, I see. So what are you wanting answers from the President?
Of course.
Yes, absolutely.
Have you already got them?
No.
No.
So then what are you going to do at your hearing?
The fact is that we need to have the Public Protector there to speak to a report.
So you agree with Mr. Manamela that she's going to have to come there?
Well, now that we have the opportunity to, in fact, have as much time as we need to do a proper investigation.
And the public will be curious in listening to this program. What do you envisage is going to happen? I mean, she's going to come. Are there going to be other witnesses? What's going to occur?
Well, there are three important individuals here. President Zuma, if he's re-elected as president, which we expect him to be, the SIU report, and the Public Protector's report, and there may be others coming from defense and intelligence.
Dr. Mulder, what then happens? I mean, you know, we've had a lot of Sturm and Drang here in this program. I'm curious as to what can the public expect from this process?
It will depend if Parliament is prepared to do what Parliament is supposed to do.
And what is Parliament supposed to do in your view?
Parliament, in terms of section...
So you've got your Constitution.
Of course. Section 55 2B of the Constitution says that Parliament should keep the executive to account. We have not done that in this instance. So whether Mr. Zuma is going to be re-elected as president or not is irrelevant. The individual called Mr. Zuma has benefit in terms of a section, Chapter 9 institutions report.
According to what the report says.
Absolutely. And in terms of that, Parliament has to fulfill its role. We've got to look after the taxpayers' money and see what happened in that respect. Now, Rule 138 of the Rules of Parliament gives a committee the power to investigate, to call for witnesses, to ask for documentation. The Public Protector says in a report, I asked the President 27 questions. Up to this point, he didn't respond to 18 of those.
But accept that, but leave the President aside from it. Isn't it better that it takes place now in a somewhat more leisurely and measured way, with the election out of the way, and with people now not being able to blame each other in the elections?
Well, yes, I would
at the end of the day, surely the public is entitled to the truth, and it doesn't really matter where it happens. I mean, okay, so some parties may have got a couple more votes one way or another.
No, absolutely. I agree with that. We wanted to have this sorted out before the election because it was important. It was not possible. Now we've got 5 years, technically, to come to the truth. And I expect the ANC, being the majority party, to come to this party, to do what the Constitution says we need to do. We've got time. Let's do it.
Let's ask him. Mr. Manamela, you heard what Dr. Mulder had to say. I mean, do you accept that? That's what's now got to happen?
Look, I mean, there's no doubt about what the role of Parliament is, oversight. But I think that, you know, we are accused as the ANC of having shut down the ad hoc committee because we wanted to protect...
I want to move on from that. I really want to move on from that. I want to talk about the future.
If we wanted to shut down the committee, which is what we can still do, we could have easily said that the President has asked that we await the Special Investigation Unit to complete its investigation, and that he will then consider all the investigations and then make then properly respond into the whole issue.
But going forward,
there is no doubt.
There is no doubt.
There is no doubt.
Yes? going forward.
Yeah, there's no doubt that the ANC, we set this in the committee. We also, I mean, in the ad hoc committee, the ANC leadership has also said this, that we want this matter to be concluded and that all the institutions, including Parliament, are tasked with the responsibility to ensure that this matter reaches the final. What we want to see ultimately are people who were responsible for having escalated the costs of the security upgrade at the House of the President being brought to book, going to jail, serving their time. And it doesn't matter who that person is.
Would that include the President?
Will that
include the President in your scope of your inquiry?
If in any way the SIU, if in any way any of the investigations point towards the President, then that would include the President, because there's no one who's above the law. And I think that the President himself has said this, that we need to ensure that there is, the truth is out in relation to the security upgrade at his own house.
Thank you. What's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with it. I think that's quite right.
And if that's what happens, and the legislature does its role in that way, then surely it would be a triumph for the legislature as a mechanism to hold the executive accountable.
Yes, I mean, in terms of what my colleague said, absolutely, we would agree with that.
Yeah.
The question is whether that's a credible statement on his part. And
well, I can't test that now. I've heard what Mr. Mulder has said. He's now gone public on that, and obviously the public can judge that.
If that's a good faith commitment, then we will hold him to it.
All right, fair enough.
No,
yes.
I hear what my colleague is saying basically, and I accept that. But I don't put the three different investigations on the same level. The public protector is a Chapter 9 institution protected by the Constitution, and she played a certain role. I cannot place the interministerial committee on the same level. They are members of the executive appointed by the President, and I have doubt in terms of what they found. The SIU is looking into some other aspects. They look into how goods were bought by Department of Public Works, etc., etc. But be that as it may, we've got to go into the details and see exactly what happens.
Well, that's the point. You're going to have to go into the details.
Absolutely.
And if the committee runs its course in ordinary way,
yes,
then you'll be able to do that.
But then the committee will have to call the President or Mr. Zuma, or wherever what position he may be, because the public protector could not get him to answer 18 vital questions. Parliament has the authority to do so. So if you really want to get to the truth, we should call all the responsible people and play our part and our role, because at the moment, allegedly, fingers are being pointed at officials. But officials, and the report will say, in one instance, one of the officials says, please, I need this money, because if we don't, we will fail number one.
I have to, Mr. Manamela, I'm awfully sorry, but I am out of time. And I have a feeling that it's going to be quite good for us to have you all back again to see what happens once Parliament actually begins its business. Because this is a very important issue. You know, we designed our constitution on the basis of separation of powers, not just the judiciary versus the legislature and the executive, but the legislature as a mechanism of accountability on the executive, and to some extent, I suppose, on the judiciary as well. And this is a real test. I accept it's a difficult question. This program isn't there to evaluate whether the public protector is accurate or not. The real point is, how does the principle of accountability, which is enshrined in our Constitution, play out in practice? Well, you've heard quite a lot of the debate this evening. You'll have to judge for yourself. Goodbye.
News that moves. ENCA.com.